Supreme victory!
So I'm a little bit late on this controversy. People have been talking about it for pretty much like a week or so now. And now I thought, okay, a lot of you have asked me about it and you're asking me my opinion. So like, yeah, let me just talk about it. So Gina Carano, in a lot of hot water, right? But then maybe not so much because of how things have worked, how things work a lot of times where, if there's a lot of backlash, a lot of controversy, and there's a lot of people that see that, hey, I don't really think you did anything wrong, a lot of people will rally behind you, and then you'll usually get other opportunities. But let me start from the beginning. For a lot of people that maybe have not been paying too much attention, Gina Carano, a lot of people, they consider her the what would you say, the grandmother of women's mixed martial arts. It's a title that she doesn't necessarily claim herself, but I think she's just kind of trying to be a little bit on the modest side because pretty much everybody agrees when Gina Carano got into mixed martial arts, that's when a lot of people started paying attention to it. I skipped out on that whole hype train because it's kind of like, say, there's certain promotions that I didn't watch because to me it's like, oh, the UFC, that's it. It's the pinnacle. It's all about the octagon. That was how I was. I mean, like, shit, I had the first UFC game on Dreamcast. That's how, like, it wasn't that good, but it was okay for its time, kind of. A little bit. But yeah, so I was kind of obsessed with the UFC. Like, to me, mixed martial arts was the UFC, so I didn't pay attention to anything else. I didn't pay attention to, Strike Force or Elite XC or any of those other things. And so Gina was never in the UFC. She could have been when Strike Force got bought by the UFC, and she could have fought again, and they thought she was going to fight again in 2011, but it didn't happen. It was basically when she got TKO'd by Chris Cyborg in 2009, she was done. And so I missed all of her glory stuff, like when she was just doing really well and she was getting all that fame. I just didn't really catch any of her fights. So I had to learn about her after the fact. And I was like, oh yeah, she's pretty dope. And, she successfully, one of the few, like, say, mixed martial artists that really transitioned very well into Hollywood. Like, she's had some pretty memorable roles. I really vividly remember her in Fast and Furious 6, I think it was. At least in Fast and Furious in general, when The Rock joined the cast. And I'm like, oh, hey, it's Gina. That's cool. And then she's had a lot of notable roles, and that's where we're going. She got a role. She secured a role in The Mandalorian. So it's like, oh, she has a great role. Big, powerful woman. Some people didn't like her because they were saying she was too powerful. They almost wanted to say she was somewhat of like a Mary Sue, but I disagreed. The way that I saw her character, I didn't see it as a Mary Sue. I just saw her as, if you're a fan of sci-fi, there's strong women in sci-fi all the time. And she's just one of those. But more of an enforcer type, but like, it's just in there. I was like, people that are fans of sci-fi, they know. Like, she's just kind of your typical sci-fi character. Put in a woman that kicks ass. But not, not like, say, the way that Rey did, where she just, like, for no reason started kicking ass. I think that was kind of, the annoyance was warranted with that. But anyway, the reason why people were so angry is because she's conservative, but she's conservative in a way that she likes to flap her gums a lot. And, there's a lot of people that are like, my free speech, like, and it's like, sure, but you also have to remember how bad do you want your job? You should really try to be smart and calculated with what you're doing. Will your politics get you in trouble with, affect your work? This is something that normal people have to worry about all the time. A lot of times people try to separate celebrities from, like, normal jobs, right? Like, just, like, acting or whatever, or being in the limelight. And I'm like, it's not that different. I mean, a lot of times the biggest difference is, okay, are you producing your own thing? Is this your own job to where you have the security to say and do whatever you please? Or are you working for someone? Most of the time, people are working for someone. So it's like, sometimes you have to watch what you say. As someone that enjoys freedom of speech, and as far as, like, say, I'm not going to get in trouble with what I'm saying, I know it doesn't extend to everything. It doesn't extend to your job's going to be protected. And so I guess she was saying some stuff that was fairly controversial, election fraud stuff, blah, 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 this and that. A lot of just typical stuff that happens, like, say, on the right. But it wasn't until she posted an Instagram story when she was like, us conservatives we pretty much are persecuted like the Jews during the Holocaust. So Gina posted this on her Instagram story. I don't know if she wrote it specifically or if she was just sharing this. Either way, she obviously agreed with it. It says, Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but their neighbors, even by children. And it says, because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? So she's talking about all the hate she gets for her political views, so she's like, how is what is happening here any different? And the thing is, it's very different because we're probably in the United States, and in the modern day times, we're not going to repeat those type of mistakes, those type of things that happened back in the day. Probably not. Now, I don't know how far in the future things might be a huge full circle. Who knows? But in the time that in my lifespan and what I'm saying is, it's kind of like weird to try to compare yourself to something so catastrophic, something such a horrible event in time. And there's something very just delicious to people about being a victim, right? This is not exclusionary to just one particular party or one particular ideology. It's just like everybody tries to do this. It's like, woe is me. Like, we're this is bad. I mean, we've slapped down a lot of progressive ideologues for saying like, chill the fuck out. It's not that bad. Go home, go outside and get some fresh air because you're probably on your computer all day. And then same shit on the right happens. Like, this is an example. I actually remember. You guys remember Laura Loomer, right? Tiregate and a bunch of other stuff that she's done. I remember arguing with her on Twitter because she was saying conservatives are like Rosa Parks, or saying something like, essentially like Rosa Parks, saying, we're like basically how it was during the Jim Crow days when you had to sit on the back of the bus. That's how conservatives are being treated nowadays. And I was just like, what? What are you talking about? Like, no. Like, we were arguing about that. I'm like, dude, no, it's not on that level. Like, that is so, you're trivializing that shit. And that's why people were so mad. Some people were saying, oh, this is anti-Semitic. I completely disagree with that. In my opinion, I don't think that is. Some people can try to make an argument that it is. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not in my opinion at all. Like, say, I don't per se think that this post or whatever is a big deal at all. I don't think it's a big deal at all. And as far as on the surface, I would say, people are saying, oh, Gina did nothing wrong. On the surface, I mean, technically she didn't do anything wrong. Not really, but at the same time, it's bad optics. I mean, did she do something stupid? Probably. I mean, the whole thing is, look, we know how a lot of companies like to pretend they're progressives, but, they have no progressive practices, right? They're all monopolies, and they'll crush any business. They'll do whatever it takes to get to the top. They're capitalism 101. They're not progressive in any way, shape, or form, but they pretend to be. It's all about, like, the image, right? So Disney tries to pretend to be really progressive, and they try to be like, oh, yeah, we represent this, and we don't tolerate this or that. So that's why they came down on her so hard, and they just fired her, which isn't really that big of a fireable offense. And I know, say, one of the other actors, I think within the same series, or at least Star Wars in general, because I've only been paying half attention because I don't care that much. I really don't. But I guess one of the actresses or something was saying something like all white people are racist. That all that garbage that we kept hearing over and over from 2016 to around like 2018. Then it kind of started to simmer down a little bit. That's one of the actors was saying something like that, and Disney was kind of like, nothing to see here. And so a lot of people were angry, where it's like, yo, this chick's like legitimately racist. She's legitimately bigoted towards white people, and you're not going to do anything about that. And the answer is because uh, from what I was just saying. They're trying to maintain this image and appease the progressive and the Hollywood vibes when it's all fake. It's all fake. They don't care about any of that shit. Some of the individuals do, but as a whole, the corporation Disney, they don't care about that shit. They're about maximizing profits. And does Gina Carano maximize their profits? Are they really taking a huge loss? No, not in their eyes. That's why she got yeeted so fast. I think it's ridiculous. I think that they easily could have just pulled her aside and been like, hey, could you kind of just calm down on that shit a little bit? Let's just and then Gina could have made the decision no, I don't want to calm down. And then you can take it from there. And it's I'm leaving because you're trying to silence me or whatever the hell, but to kind of just being so just I know reactionary is reserved for the right now, but just in the general term of what it actually means, but just a knee-jerk reaction, it's kind of silly. I think a lot of people have been getting fired or canceled, right? Just with these knee-jerk reactions, and it's silly. At this point, it's can we stop doing this? Because there's a lot in normal jobs. You usually get verbal warnings, written warnings, and then you get the can. So it's well, what are we doing here? Can we figure some shit out? Because this is happening all over the political spectrum. It's not just the right's being persecuted. It's you think about what was that dude's name? James Gunn. All of his dumbass jokes that he was doing on Twitter, and then he just got fired all quick. That kind of stuff. He's back now, but it's can we just calm down a little bit? Can we just calm down? But anyway, I guess Gina, at the end of the day, she'll probably be okay because Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire rescued her. They're going to do a production with her. And so she's probably going to, and most likely it'll probably do well. It's going to get all of the conservative support, obviously. And I actually heard that the Daily Wire, the production of, what is it? Run, Fast, Hide, or whatever the hell that movie was called. It was some school shooter thing that was also what was that? What's that video game with Sam Fisher? Splinter Cell. Splinter Cell. But yeah, so I guess whatever Run, Hide, Fight, I think it's called Run, Hide, Fight. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. I could be wrong. But I heard that actually it wasn't that bad. So she's probably gonna be taken care of. So at the end of the day, she seems fine. Like I said, a lot of times in situations like this, people will get rewarded. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. So, people are asking my opinion. That's all I have to say on that. She'll be fine either way. I know she's not blacklisted from Hollywood from that. She didn't say anything oh, the Jews are the worst or something. She didn't say anything. I was just oh, these guys suck. And then they'd be oh yeah, you're done. You're done. Nah, she just was look how persecuted we are. And it's just calm down a little bit. Just a little bit.